This week is going to be slightly different. I'm going to be talking about a few different things from the studio this week. A little bit of sketchbook painting, some studio cleaning and maintenance, and of course the entire process of a full painting. Quite an alright one, I thought. Alright, let's get started.
It's the nail cleaning painting.
Every day I'll do a few things in my sketchbook. It's like training. This sketchbook you haven't seen before. This is one that's just for alcohol markers. A few years ago I was given this big box of really nice alcohol markers, but I'll admit I never really got into using them. Didn't really think it was my vibe. Anyway, this sketchbook is my attempt to try and understand markers. Maybe I'll share more of it in the future. Alcohol markers are something I want to learn more about though. There's lots of things I want to learn more about, lots of skills I want to learn, but there's only so much time in life. We all think we've got more time than we really do. Sometimes with paintings, you do sort of 99% of it, and more than 99%, but you just leave this one little bit. Quite often you'll see people do this, it's like a highlight in the eye or something. In this painting, it was the little glow of a cigarette. As you can see, I decided the first one wasn't quite big enough. It needed to be 0.1 millimeters bigger. Nice. So I also made this little landscape painting, a little landscape in a sketchbook. Don't do a lot of landscapes. There's no real reason for that other than I kind of feel inclined towards portraiture. But it's good fun to do these every now and then. You can get away with a lot more. You don't have to worry about likeness. It's more about vibe. And I think I got something of the vibe here. The photo's from Northumberland. And if you know the landscape, I think I got something of that. Slightly depressing but mystical green. Anyway, I just left it there. I don't think I needed to do any more. It was maybe a 20-minute painting, but I really enjoyed it. I vowed to do more landscapes. So I've never emptied that. So we're going to do that now. Huh. Well, I guess I'm surprised at how little has come out of there. Whoa! It is a huge amount of pigment in there. That's pretty much full of pigment. Okay, so I'll just get rid of that. I've seen some people use this, take up the pigment and then make it kind of brown, like a studio brown. I don't think I'll bother, to be honest. How the hell am I going to get it out? Do I just scoop it out? I mean, it's extraordinary how much gunk is in here. Well, I wouldn't say it was clean, but it's a lot better than it was. That's just solid pigment paint. And finally onto the big painting. I'll talk a little bit about the painting, but I also want to talk about something that's been troubling me generally. So you might have noticed I did promise semi-recently that I was going to do weekly uploads, which hasn't worked out. That's because I go through these spells of being hyper-productive and just churning stuff out. The paintings just fall off the brush. The edits, I just do them, just post it, publish it. So productive. But then other times, I just feel like I'm going through mud. I'm in one of those times right now. I've got about 6 or 7 paintings that are all, more than half finished. I love starting something new, and sometimes finishing things can be difficult. But I just need to commit into it. The discipline is important. I think sometimes there's this perception that artists, painters, don't have any discipline. They just do whatever intuitively feels right. And I think actually discipline's pretty important. I need to be a little bit more disciplined in finishing these things. The fact is, once I get into it, it's fine. The kind of psychological barrier to doing it is the thought of, oh, I'm going to have to do so much work to find that palette again. Because I mix in a kind of chaotic, disordered way, like the puddle method, as I've heard people call it. I don't have sort of systems, so if I want to get back to the kind of palette range of a painting, I have to do a bit of work to get there. And it feels like a lot of work. In reality, it's not. You can get there relatively quickly. Or, you know, the painting ends up changing a little bit in this new layer, and it's usually fine. I have to often remind myself that I pretty much never regret going back to a painting. If something compels me to keep working on it, then usually it was a good idea that I did it. Sometimes in the course of an alla prima painting, I'll think, it was better at a previous stage. But when I finished a session, I sit back, wait a few days, and I think it's not quite done, I never regret going back and finishing it. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to get better at churning out the videos too. So I'm going to paint on this for a little while to try and rediscover the painting, because I've lost it. It's become lost. But this painting, this is a fun painting. I was thinking a lot about that Zorn self-portrait. And while that is obviously in a more limited palette, I just love the energy in that fur coat. I didn't have a clear idea about where this painting was going. I just intuitively liked the image. There was something about it that felt weird, kind of dreamlike. I mean, it's just a kind of selfie. So, you know, it's an Instagram story selfie. And I quite like in these Instagram stories that you can add things like stickers and bits of text. So at this stage I was just trying to make the image, but I knew I was going to add in a bit more later. And maybe I just want to dwell a little bit on that idea of collage. I think the collage is a really interesting method of making images. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the technique of collage, like actually taking bits of paintings or bits of printed photography or something. I am painting the whole thing, but where the references are drawn from is collage-like. You know, in that kind of image, meaning is no longer discovered or kind of laid down from above, but constructed both by me and you, both by the maker and the receiver. You know, I can kind of borrow a little bit from things that I know about architecture in the city. You know, people talk about the city as collage. You know, the city of collage is not an object, but a field of objects. And of course, that's what the city's like. Good cities anyway. We like the multiplicity, we like all these different things. We like that it's contradictory. But it's not just cities that are like that. People are like that too. So maybe as portraits, as images, as paintings, maybe we should think more collage-like. That it's okay to pull these references in from other places. Maybe it's less abstract, maybe it's more normal, maybe it's more like how things really are. I like this collage city Colin Rowe quote. It's the collage is a method of accommodating fragments of utopia without the totalitarian consequence of total design. I think that works for painting too. The totalitarian consequence of totality, right? If I try and give a totality of meaning, or transfer a totality of meaning from a reference onto a painting, maybe that is inherently flawed and kind of just bad. You know, who am I to say this is how it is? Maybe something of the collage allows others to read more into it. But it's still figurative. You know, it's not going so far as to say all meaning is up for grabs. I'm drawing things that look like things. I'm painting things that look like things. Now, in terms of collage painting, this is fairly tame. This is just a few other little bits. A fire in the background. Some bleed from kind of green screen. You know, a good morning message. You know, it's quite tame. But it's just a thought that I was thinking about, this idea of collage. Maybe I can start to accept more of that stuff into my work. Anyway, that's some fragmented, collage-like thinking on collage. I also like the way that the green edges come out. This painting is actually still available, so if you like it, then please have a look on the website. Better yet, if you've watched this far in the video, you can use this discount code and get 25% off that painting. That's a Barry bargain.